I've been called a dick before, but this is the first time I've been called fame hungry. Hey guys, welcome back to the Dr. Cliff AUD vlog. This is vlog number 310, and today I'm breaking down a comment from a UK audiologist who does not seem to be the biggest fan of me. But before I do me a huge favor, click the like button, really helps out the channel. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that as well. It's greatly appreciated. So, as you can imagine, today's video is about a post that was made in one of the Facebook group forums, and they didn't really have that nice of things to say about me really at the end of the post. Everything else that they said, they did have a couple of good points that I'll break down for you guys in this video, but I'm actually pretty close with one of the hearing loss and hearing aid support group forum moderators on Facebook, Janelle Kunamara, and about a week ago, she sent me a message saying, hey, just wanted you to know, someone made a comment about you on the Facebook group. I actually removed the comments and I banned the individual from being in the group. So, you know, when you go onto these, they have moderators, and the moderators basically make sure that nobody's getting out of line. This person apparently got out of line. I don't really actually have a problem with this individual's post, but you tell me in the comment section if you think that this was offensive. But let me just go ahead and read it for you guys, and then I'll break it down section by section. And I apologize, the grammar's not the best in here, so I'm just gonna try to read this off the best that I possibly can. So this individual starts by saying, I'm an audiologist in the UK, I use REMs, have the equipment. When using REMs, you have to use a default algorithm, i.e. NAL2. All the manufacturers offer their own algorithms in their proprietary software. REMs negates this. Skill and knowledge and personification can far outweigh a graph. There is a place for REMs. There is also a place for skill and knowledge. Why would you not use eStat and Starkey and use NAL2, or change Phonak to NAL2? It covers your back for gold standard. It then takes from the client the years and money of research the manufacturers put into the fine-tuning of their hearing aids. A quality fitted hearing aid with their proprietary software and tune as necessary around the acoustics. P.S. Dr. Cliff is a fame-hungry dick. All right, so like I said, let's just go ahead to the beginning of this comment and just kind of like talk through this, okay? This is healthy for all of us to just talk through these types of things. So one of the first statements here is, when using REMs, you have to use a default algorithm, i.e. NAL2. So REMs, it stands for real ear measurement, is a form of verification that we use to make sure that hearing aids are programmed properly to a patient's hearing loss prescription. So when you go in and you get your hearing test at the audiology clinic, they're gonna enter that audiogram into the manufacturer's software. They're also going to enter it into the verification software if your hearing care professional actually performs real ear measurement, because only 30% of hearing care professionals use real ear measurement to verify prescriptive targets. But that is a topic for another video. This individual actually says that he or she does do real ear measurement, although with all the comments that they made, I kind of am doubting that, and maybe they just run it to run it, but you'll see why here in a second. So the issue that they're having here is that you have to use a default algorithm like NAL-NL2. And really what I think they're saying here is that you have to use a validated prescriptive method if you're going to verify the programming of a hearing aid. And this is totally true. So the equipment that we purchase as hearing care professionals for the clinic to do the verification of hearing aids, you've got the probe microphone tubes that go in your ears, you've got the speaker that plays sound in front of you, and then you measure that amplification that comes through the hearing aid approximately 5 millimeters away from your eardrum. Now, when you're doing this verification, you can only verify it to either NAL-NL2, NAL-NL1, NAL-NL3. It's the third version of the National Acoustics Laboratory Nonlinear version 3. You have DSL prescription, which is desired sensation level, version 5, I believe that they're on right now. But there's all of these validated prescriptive targets that have, thousands of individuals who are part of the research for this. It's peer reviewed and it's population validated, meaning that when you have this many people inside of these studies to show that these are the ideal prescriptive methods, then you can actually take that and generalize it to the population. And then if you have a person in the UK who needs amplification, if you have a person in the United States who needs amplification, at least you have a validated prescriptive method to use to make sure that that individual has optimal intelligibility of speech, ideally, with comfortable loudness levels. That is very important, and that is typically the goal of a NAL, NL2 prescriptive method, and for the other methods as well. Now, these different methods, they do vary. So like, the reason you have nonlinear version 1, nonlinear version 2, nonlinear version 3 is because over time with more research, they identify, well, actually, we need to change either the goals of what we're trying to accomplish, or we need to change how much amplification is applied in different frequency ranges. Okay, now same thing is true with DSL. That has a different goal. Typically, we use DSL for children when we want to make sure that they have optimal audibility of sound as they're developing speech. So essentially, if you're going to be verifying the programming of a hearing aid, you have to use one of these validated prescriptive methods. But this brings me to the next statement that this individual made, which is all the manufacturers offer their own algorithms in their proprietary software, and using realer measurement essentially negates this. And to a degree, this individual is correct. So every single hearing aid manufacturer has their own proprietary algorithm that they use to determine how much amplification that their hearing aids will give you based on the audiogram that you enter into the software. Now, you have to remember that these prescriptive targets are validated with a couple hundred individuals. We're not talking thousands upon thousands of individuals, so you can't necessarily take that data and generalize it to the entire population. You also have to remember the goals of the hearing aid manufacturers here. And the goals of the hearing aid manufacturer is to increase first fit acceptance. It is not to optimize hearing performance with their proprietary algorithm. Ultimately, what this means is that the proprietary algorithm inside of the manufacturer's software will typically under-amplify certain frequency ranges, in particular the high frequencies, because a lot of new hearing aid users, they'll put hearing aids in their ears and then you'll increase the high frequencies to overcome their high frequency hearing loss, and they feel like it's tinny, they feel like it's too sharp, they feel like it's harsh. They have all these different ways of describing that sound, even though getting access to those high frequencies is what increases audibility and intelligibility. Now, this can happen for someone who is very new to hearing aids, or even someone who's been wearing hearing aids for a while, but they've not been receiving the full amount of amplification up to their validated prescriptive method targets. And so if a hearing aid manufacturer were to properly amplify, in particular, the high frequencies with their proprietary method, then you would have a lot more individuals who are not receiving the proper counseling from their hearing care professional, trying to encourage them to actually accept those high frequencies so they can get better performance from their hearing aids. And then those individuals would end up returning those devices for a refund, which a hearing aid manufacturer does not want. Of course, hearing care professionals also do not want that, which is why you have a lot of hearing care professionals who have limited time with their patients prefer to go with these proprietary algorithms from the hearing aid manufacturers and just leave it at what we call first fit settings, because a patient will often be like, oh, well, I can tell I'm getting amplification and I think it sounds better, but it definitely sounds comfortable enough to wear. And so now I want you to imagine that when you're actually going to verify the programming with a validated prescriptive method like NAL, NL2, you're going to actually see that the patient is nowhere close to their high frequency prescriptive targets, which means there's no way that this individual is going to actually be hearing their best. And I should make a mention here that it's not just the high frequencies, this also includes mid and low frequencies as well. I should also mention that when I'm verifying the programming of my patient's hearing aids to their validated prescriptive targets, I'm actually leaving the initial estimates for how much amplification they need on the hearing aid manufacturer's proprietary algorithm. This is because when these manufacturers are creating their own algorithms, they're actually trying to accomplish different things with their digital features and with the amount of compression, things like that. And if there's any of that stuff that I can leave intact on the hearing aid manufacturer's software side, I want to do that instead of switching it in the software over to NAL, NL1, NL2, NL3, so on and so forth. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the third thing this individual says, which is skill and knowledge and personification can far outweigh a graph. I don't know if I agree with this. I don't know what data this individual has to show that just skill and knowledge of the person fitting or of the proprietary software would outweigh what you measure with realer measurement on the graph. So it's kind of hard to know what this individual is saying, and because they didn't qualify this in any way, but when we're doing real ear verification or real ear measurement, we're actually looking at a graph to see if the amplification levels of their hearing aids are matching their prescriptive targets to ensure optimal intelligibility of speech and auditory comfort at the same time. Now, I don't know how you take skill and knowledge and completely replace that, because if you look at all of the research, I don't know if I've ever seen any research that shows that individuals who have their hearing aids programmed to a validated prescriptive target using real ear measurement actually had a worse outcome for individuals compared to individuals who just used the proprietary fitting software with the clinician making tweaks and adjustments off of that first fit estimate. I do believe that it is important to have skill and knowledge as a clinician, but skill and knowledge, in my opinion, cannot outweigh objective measures, because I can't hear what you hear when I'm programming a pair of hearing aids. I can program them, and then based on comments that you say out loud, I might be like, oh, it sounds like I'm giving you too much low frequency or not enough high frequency or something like that. But why not actually verify it to a prescriptive target and then make adjustments based on the comments of the individual? But let's hold that thought and go into this next statement that they made, which is, there is a place for REMs, there is also a place for skill and knowledge. I completely agree with this. I believe that you need to use real ear measurement, and then I also believe that you need to use skill and knowledge based on what you get with that real ear measurement reading on the graph, right? So like, why not combine objective and subjective rather than just having to rely on subjective? I don't know how that's an argument in this world of audiology, but nevertheless, let's move on. Why would you not use eStat and Starkey and use NAL2, or change Phonak to NAL2? It covers your back for gold standard. It then takes from the client the years and money of research the manufacturers put into the fine tuning of their hearing aids. So I'll say this. So yeah, I'm very familiar with Starkey's eStat. That's their own proprietary algorithm for first fit amplification levels. He's talking about, why would you not just leave it on eStat and then just, I guess, maybe verify it to see what they're getting, but you're not verifying against anything. You have to verify against a validated prescriptive method, and the manufacturers do not give their prescriptive method to these verification companies. So I can't even go in, let's say that I wanted to use Starkey's eStat first fit algorithm. I cannot take that and then verify it on my third-party equipment. I can't see if I'm actually hitting the prescriptive targets that Starkey wants you to hit. You have to remember that if you can't measure it, you're going to run into potential issues of you're not getting the amount of amplification that you want, because everybody's ear canal size and shape is different. Every ear canal shapes sound differently. You can have identical hearing losses with two different people and put them in the eStat first fit algorithm, and then both of them are getting different amounts of amplification at different frequency ranges because they have different ear canals. On top of that, when you're using an open fit dome, a vented dome, a closed dome, a custom ear mold with a certain type of vent size, that is all going to change the amount of amplification that individual actually gets from those hearing aids. So the only way to prevent that from creating an issue of not allowing this individual to hear their best is to verify it with real ear measurement, and then based on how they're adapting to that amplification level, you take your skill and knowledge and then you modify it. I do agree that you want to leverage the hearing aid manufacturers' research and time that they've put in and money that they've put into developing their hearing aid technology, but until I see research that shows that their proprietary algorithms outperform verifying to validated prescriptive target methods, like, I don't see how you could make the argument that you should rely on the manufacturers and what they've learned about their hearing aids with their small group of people that they created these algorithms with. I mean, just take a look at the studies that are out there. This stuff is not new, right? You look at certain studies that were done that individuals had 15% higher word recognition, 8% higher phoneme recognition when they're using a validated prescriptive method like NAL, NL2. You also see that individuals with NAL, NL1 had a significant improved performance in background noise with their hearing aids versus modern hearing aids that are left on the manufacturer's proprietary algorithms. And this includes having an old analog hearing aid that was programmed using real ear measurement, actually outperformed a lot of the higher technology levels of these hearing aid manufacturers, as long as that old analog hearing aid was verified using real ear measurement to a validated prescriptive target. This study from back in 2018 by Dr. Mike Valente even identified that individuals had significant significant preference for hearing aids that were programmed to their NAL, NL2 prescriptive targets rather than being left on the manufacturer's first fit algorithm. And even the individuals who preferred the manufacturer's algorithms all performed better when they were verified to the NAL, NL2 targets. Heck, even third-party independent hearing aid testing lab HearAdvisor that tests all of these different hearing aids identified that hearing aids that are in their first fit settings from the manufacturer's proprietary fitting algorithms do not perform as well as these hearing aids when you have them set to a verified prescriptive target like NAL, NL2. I'm sorry, but there's just way too much data out there that completely negates what this individual is trying to say about which route you should go when programming a pair of hearing aids. The next thing that they say is a quality fitted hearing aid with their proprietary software and tune as necessary around the acoustics. I don't really know what that means, tune around the acoustics. You don't even know what the acoustics are doing inside of the patient's ear canal. Like I said earlier, you can't hear what they're hearing. The only way for you to know what they're actually getting from the hearing aids, considering that everybody has different ear canal sizes and shapes, is to verify it using real ear measurement. Now, you can leave the hearing aid on the manufacturer's proprietary fitting algorithm. I do not care. But you have to verify it against something. And even if you're not going to verify it against something, at least run a verification measure, see what they're getting inside of their ear, see if they at least have some audibility of the sound up against their audiogram. But even then, you cannot guarantee that a patient is going to have the highest speech intelligibility index that they possibly can. At least when I'm verifying the amplification levels of a pair of hearing aids on a patient, I can see what they're hearing. Okay, I can see if they're meeting their prescription. I can see if they're under-amplified or over-amplified. I can put them at their full prescription. I can back them down from their full prescription as they acclimate to the amount of sound that they're getting and then increase it over time. The goal should be to get as close to their prescriptive targets as they can reasonably tolerate. And if they cannot tolerate it, you have to back down away from those prescriptive targets, okay? But that doesn't negate the fact that you should be running real ear measurement to a validated prescriptive method. And like I said, until I see actual research that supports the use of a proprietary fitting algorithm without verifying it, or with verifying it but not against a validated prescriptive method, perhaps we could have the verification software companies to actually get what those prescriptive methods are from the manufacturers and have it inside of their verifiable software with their equipment so we can measure it. I just don't see how we can make the argument that doing real ear measurement to a validated prescriptive method doesn't have as much value as a skilled clinician using a proprietary method from a manufacturer. Now, if you feel like I've lost you at this point, that just goes to show that you need to make sure that you have a hearing care professional who does know what they're talking about. Maybe this individual is a very skilled clinician. Maybe they're very good at what they do. Maybe they have better treatment outcomes than what I have inside of my clinic. And if that's the case, then great. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that not only are you going to a hearing care professional who is good and skilled and who knows what they're doing, and this individual potentially is one of those clinicians, but you also have to go to a hearing care professional who's following comprehensive audiologic best practices if you believe in what the research says by peer-reviewed studies that have been out there for decades at this point. Now, the easiest way to find a hearing care professional who follows these best practices, at least in the United States, sorry, I can't really help you out there in the UK yet, but is to go to hearingup.com and find a Hearing Up Network member in your area. Every Hearing Up member has been vetted and are committed to following comprehensive audiologic best practices, including real ear measurement, so they're not just guessing when it comes to programming your hearing aids and, licking their fingers, sticking it in the wind to see if they need to make adjustments on your programming. That being said, I've got one more thing I need to do in this video, which is respond to the very last comment that this individual made, which is, P.S. Dr. Cliff is a fame-hungry dick, and you know what? Shoot, I think you got me there.